Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Paper here with another deck spotlight video for you. In this video, we're talking about a deck that I've been working on and iterating on for about 2 weeks now since Jean was released. Jean, I think, had a little bit of a bad rap when she was released because people didn't really understand how you need to fill her lane immediately. I think this deck does that really well with Ant-Man and Mojo, as well as helps you add power to that lane later in the game with stuff like Spectrum. This deck won me 3 Infinity tickets so far, and I know I'm going to win a couple more at least before the Infinity week comes around. So in this video, we're going to be talking about some of the replacements for the harder to obtain cards, because I do have some Series 4 and 5 cards in here. And then we'll go into some of the gameplay against some of the meta decks that we see very frequently in Conquest and on Ladder. So let's get right into the deck breakdown. And if you enjoyed this video, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel here. Thanks for watching, guys. Starting off with the Jean core running Ant-Man, Mojo, and Jean Grey. Jean Grey will force your opponent to play into this location, while we have Ant-Man and Mojo in that location, preferably to get buffed by the fact that both players are filling up that location. This is the core of the deck. This is what I built the entire deck around, and I think it's just a really strong idea, and we have stuff in this deck that will buff or allow us to have a little bit of flexibility in this Jean Grey lane. So I think this is the solid base for the list, and we'll move on to some of the other cards that make this really pop out as a strong contender in the current meta. Moving on, we have Jeff, Wave, and Spectrum. Now, Spectrum was kind of the reason why these first 3 cards were used. They're all ongoing cards. Spectrum can buff all those cards to kind of catch your opponent off guard, while also just adding power to that location that your opponent will just not expect in general. Next up, we have Wave. Wave is a great card in this list because your opponent has to play their first card in Jean's location, and if they don't have that location full, Wave will force them to play that card into Jean and no other cards for the rest of the turn. You can play this on turn 3 when there's something like a Kiln on the board to prevent your opponent from even interacting with Kiln. You can play this on 5 if your opponent hasn't filled up Jean. On turn 6, they have to play their 1 card that turn on the Jean Grey lane, so you know how much power your opponent's going to have by the end of the game in most situations. And finally, we have Jeff. Now, Jeff adds a ton of flexibility to this deck. Jeff is a Series 5 card. He's a little bit harder to get, but I do think he's a core card in this list purely for the flexibility. You can play Jeff on the Jean Grey lane as a way to hold a spot there, so you're able to fill up Jean Grey's lane, interact with other sides of the board, and then come back and move the Jeff off of that location to play like a Spectrum or an Iron Man to lock up and win the Jean Grey lane. Next up, we have the Control Core, which is a bit misleading because some of the other cards in the previous sections were also control cards. Armor, Cosmo, and Professor X are all great at doing different things. All of these cards are actually great against destroy lists. Cosmo also works against stuff like Surfer and Hela, and Professor X is great off of a wave to get an early locked location, and also he can be buffed by Spectrum, and you can move or play Jeff in that location just to give that deck or that location a little bit more power. The final 3 cards in this list are a little bit odd. They are replaceable in many different ways. Snowguard is a great card that can catch your opponent off guard. Their effect isn't always effective, however, it's a 1 cost that you can use to fill Jean, and when its effect does work, it is a pretty solid effect, especially with the Legion meta that we're currently walking into. Iron Lad is a great card. He has a ton of great targets in this list. He's also our highest power card in the list, so when we replace him, we kind of have to look for something that's going to give us a lot of power, as sometimes on turn 4 when we want to just slam something, we just want it to be high power to go into the Jean lane. And then the final card is Iron Man. He costs 5 energy, which is a high cost for this deck. It's harder to get as many cards into his location because he's being played later in the game. We also have the option of moving Jeff out of Jean's location to play Iron Man there, so that's one of the main reasons why he's remained in this list, because that's a very strong combo to be using. However, he is quite replaceable. I just don't really know what to replace him with, but he does work in this list as it is. Moving on to replacements for some of the cards in this list, Snowguard can be replaced by tons of things. I was originally running this exact list sub Luke Cage for Snowguard, and I won 1 Infinity ticket with that list. I replaced Luke Cage with Snowguard, there wasn't really a great effect on the deck. So I think this slot is really malleable. There's a lot of things we can run here. I think the actual perfect card is Howard the Duck. If you do have Iron Lad, Howard the Duck benefits from having Iron Lad, obviously, and then Howard the Duck is also an ongoing card, so it gets buffed by Spectrum. Other cards to run would be maybe Echo if you have Echo, and Iceman. Now, Iceman will make it harder for your opponent to fill up the Jean Grey lane potentially, making it just a great add and a solid one-drop for this list. For Iron Lad, it's a little bit harder to replace him since he is so much power and he does have great targets in this list. However, we can replace him with something like Atuma for 10 power. We have Armor and Professor X in this list, so Atuma actually can survive in most situations. However, it is a little bit awkward sometimes if you need to play him on turn 4 on the Jean lane that, maybe doesn't have the armor. So other cards that we can consider are maybe Drax. Now, Drax with Jean is obviously a great call because he becomes an 8 power guaranteed since your opponent has to play on that location. Another consideration would be something like Enchantress or Shang-Chi. Now, these cards are just great counter cards. However, they don't offer great power, so they have to be used very particularly. Now, we do have Armor and Cosmo in this list, so Shang-Chi kind of isn't as effective sometimes. And also, Enchantress can turn off all of our ongoings, which is also a problem. Overall, this deck has been really fun to play. It's been really unexpected. Everybody that I play against seems to get really frustrated really early. I've had a lot of people leave Conquest games, maybe like 2 or 3 games in, when they realize like I can't do anything. I'm just getting controlled in this Jean Grey lane, and this person's also running Armor and Cosmo. Like, they just have everything to counter me. So I think this deck is really surprising. Not a lot of people are running anything like it right now, and a lot of people are running things that this deck can easily counter. So I would highly encourage you, if you have the cards for this list, to give it a shot. I think it's a great deck, and I'm really proud of what I've done with it so far. Getting like 3 Infinity tickets is actually probably the highest thing besides the Ghost Stock deck in terms of how many like full gold runs or Infinity runs that I've been able to do with a deck. So go ahead and give this deck a try if you have all the cards. Try it out with the replacements. If you have any suggestions, if you've replaced something and have found success with it. So if you do replace something with something that I haven't mentioned or something I haven't thought of, please shoot me a comment below and let me know what you've done. I would love to test out some of your guys' recommendations, as I love kind of getting a deck like this into a perfect state. So if you're not already, please consider subscribing to this YouTube channel. I post weekly deck breakdown videos breaking down some of the biggest decks in the meta, as well as some more unique things like this. Also, I stream all of my gameplay on twitch.tv/paper with 2 R's. I stream Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at night, and I would love to have you around and just chatting, and let me know what you think about this deck if you've had success with it. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and as always, good luck snapping. What are the odds of that? Okay, so it's the destroy version, which I think we're fine into. I could have came earlier. Oh, all of those get flipped. Awesome. Very awesome. That's so very awesome. We could draw Jeff here. Jeff top deck would be actually super clutch. So we have priority going into the last turn, which is awesome for us. We've played wave, which means we did screw ourselves a little bit, as per usual. Why is Mojo and Ant-Man, why aren't they glowing? Why are they not glowing? I'm gonna take screenshots now, just in case this is a bug that needs fixed. If we lose because of that, it's gonna be annoying. Okay, so it did buff him. Nowhere? We don't have Hey, if we get Snowguard on the right turn, we turn off Limbo, by the way. We didn't get priority, unfortunately, so we can't stop this negative. Play wave next turn with Jeff.
I am Iron Man.
That's so fucking funny, man. All right, play your one card. He can become a 13. Well, he can only play one card, and it has to be in the middle, actually. He can only play one card, and it has to be in the middle lane. So we just play Spectrum on the... Can he play more than one card? There's no way, right? Because we just play Spectrum. He can play Iron Man, and maybe the Iron Man's big, but I don't think so. Like, we buffed everything in the middle, so we're even bigger now.
I am Iron Man.
Ooh, my god, dude. This combo's so good. And then we have wave to just stop him. Oh. Oh, this deck is fucking gross. He might have Brood. Okay. We might be okay. Copied Wasp. Yeah. So we get 8 energy next turn, or we have 9 energy next turn, plus wave. We can play 2 cards. Since everything's 4, so we can play 2 cards. He can only play 1 card. And we can move Jeff out of there to play both Iron Man and Spectrum next turn. If he plays Ultron, he plays Ultron right. He becomes 17 on the right. That's the only card he can play, so our Mojo doesn't have any effect. 17 on the right. We moved, so we play Iron Man left. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3. So they're 12. Ultron bots in the middle are 12 if he does that. One, two, three. So Spectrum. And we win the right lane.
I am Iron Man.
By 1 point. Oh man. That was close.